Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Brisbane City Council meeting. If you wouldn't mind, please rising and join us for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Note for the record that all council members are present.
Okay. Do I have an adoption of tonight's agenda?
Move adoption.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I wanted to ask that we close in silence for the slain police officers of Dallas and for the victims of tonight's tragedy in Nice.
Oh, I didn't even hear what happened in these.
Okay, amend my motion.
Okay, well, let's have a moment of silence for that, please. All right, thank you. Okay.
So with that, all
Second.
in favor?
Yes.
I think we already have
All
a
those in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, we had a closed session. Do you have anything to report out?
Mayor, had a closed session concerning real property negotiations and also with respect to pending litigation. No action was taken by council on either of the matters.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, we have a couple of presentations. First one is National Night Out, and Officer Robert Malone is going to make that presentation. How you doing, Robert?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing just fine.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. On Tuesday, August 2nd, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., we'll be hosting the National Night Out event, which is an annual event. It builds community, promotes police and community relationships, and it also builds neighborhood camaraderie. This event has been going on for about 30 years nationally. This is our first year participating in Brisbane. We want to be able to host as an example, and moving forward have each neighborhood take ownership and do their own event locally within their own neighborhood, because it builds safety awareness, it builds neighborhood community, and different neighborhoods throughout the nation do different things. They host parades, some have block parties. There are some cities that they actually partner with neighboring cities and have a large event that 3 or 4 cities participate in. But for Brisbane, we want to have something small over at the community park where we, as a police department, host the event as an example for the community so they can see what it entails. We can also provide information to people who show up to give them information so next year moving forward, they can host their own events. We'll be able to provide them with the resources, and there's a booklet that has step-by-step of a checklist of everything you need. It even it has pre-made invitations, so it is fairly simple to do, but it allows each neighborhood to accommodate their own specific needs. Neighborhoods that have kids, they can have stuff that's more geared towards kids. Neighborhoods that don't can have it be what they like it to be that fits their needs. And again, the National Night Out is just an opportunity to promote awareness, safety, and neighborhood unity. And moving forward, we want the neighborhoods in each city up at the Ridge and here locally on the lower levels to just take ownership of it, so we can come and we can show our presence and participate in what they're doing. And that's going to be the 2nd of August, which is a Tuesday.
And you said 7 to 9 p.m. at the community park?
Yes.
So outdoors?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I know at the Ridge that several residents there have organized a neighborhood watch group, and Chief Macias had talked about participating in the National Night Out program. So I'll be sure to relay the information to them.
Are there any other questions?
What kind of event are you planning to have for our first one?
So for the first one, we just want people to gather. We're going to provide food. We're still working out the details as far as any entertainment that we're going to have. But it's more of a place for people to come and in partnership and fellowship and get to know each other and get to know us as well. So that's why we want to be able to participate in not just our own event, but be able to go around and make our round throughout the city. But for this year in particular, I think for the thing that we have buttoned down is just the food so far.
Great.
Food brings people out.
Yeah, yeah. You know, last year when I was campaigning, I went to South San Francisco's National Night Outs, and they had several. And sometimes they'll have it at a park. Sometimes they'll have it at someone's house, and, you know, they'll just open up the garage door and, you know, they'll do the picnic, the barbecue. And, yeah, it's a wonderful way for folks in the neighborhood to meet the officers that keep them safe. And it does build unity and community, and I'm glad that Brisbane is going to partake in that. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing you out there, Robert.
Well, I think it's another step in our community-oriented policing policies, for sure. So, good job. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Good presentation.
Thank you.
All righty. Up next is a report on the Littman Teen Program, and Michelle Chan is going to step in for Principal Heckerman.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to come and address you this evening, and I'd just like to say good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Michelle Chan. I'm the coordinator of our after-school program, and I'm really just appreciative of the time to be able to share a little bit more of what's going on during our second year that we've been underway. And we just have a little presentation just to kind of recap a little bit of what's going on during this year. And we've called our after-school program Club Littman. And our objective has remained the same, and we've continued to develop a comprehensive after-school program. Basically, our goals and what we feel adds to a comprehensive program is creating a supportive place for teens to engage in healthy activities after school. There's increased supervision for teens and preteens during the late afternoon and evening time. There are improvements in academic achievement and emotional well-being. We'll keep that in mind as we're setting programs up and in place, and to provide access to enrichment opportunities that many of our school community may not have had the chance to take part in. So basically at Littman this past year, we had 159 students enrolled. During our fall trimester, we had 82 students enrolled in our after-school program, so that's basically 52%, the larger half of our student population. In our second trimester programming, it drops a little bit. We're not able to offer as much outdoor activity. It gets dark sooner, a little stormy weather, so we just don't pull in quite as many kids after school. We still had 38% of our population, or 60 kids, were participating in after-school programs. And then again in the spring, when we're able to bring back more programming, outdoor swimming, that type of thing, we had back up to 54% and 86 of our students, and I think that's about the highest we've been so far. So it's been kind of a steady climb since we first introduced the program the year before. And during our first session, you can just take a quick peek, 46% of the clubs that we offered after school were of academic support, and 29% were enrichment activities, and then 25% were geared to be kind of social venues for the kids to, be together and have that time that they report that they really enjoy. And then we had 18 of our classes were led by school staff and 3 by contracting agencies, and then we also had 3 community volunteers that came in and offered programs for us. And excuse me one second. just a little better glimpse. And so in our session one, this is the only time I'll go over it with you because it's just a kind of a look at what types of classes we've offered, and it's similar from session to session. We have Homework Club, which is available daily and twice a day so that no matter what the kids want to partake in, they always have that chance for homework support. Ceramics Club and gardening, where we've had some volunteer help with our gardening program. Club Littman is kind of one of our social outlets where the kids can play games of different types after school with friends. And then our mountain environment class puts the kids up on San Bruno Mountain, and they learn about native plants and wildlife and the habitat there. And then we've had a variety of cooking classes, guitar, introduction to construction, which is also a volunteer-led program, and Java Minecraft, another volunteer-led kind of coding class or programming. And then with the support of the pool, we were able to offer junior lifeguarding and a swimming class that was a little bit more geared towards helping kids with certain techniques. So we really appreciate that partnership with the pool. That was a really great treat for us to be able to offer that to them. And then in our second session, we have about 48% of our clubs that are academic, 26% are enrichment, and another 26% are social. And again, we have the larger share of them that are offered by staff, and then a few contracting agencies and a volunteer. And then the programs in our second session during the winter are fairly similar. We're able to pull in a volleyball clinic and do that inside the gym, so it helps with the weather. And, you know, lost a couple of the outdoor classes, but those come back again in the spring. And then, again, we've had about 20% of our, 20 staff members, in our third session that were involved in leading classes, 4 that were outside agencies, and 2 that were volunteer-led. And that's about 42% of our clubs that we offered were academic, and 31% were enrichment, and 27% were social activity. And then in our third session, it's kind of similar to the first session where there's just a little bit more outdoor. We had swimming. We were able to offer a Spanish class. That was a new class for us, offered by a volunteer from here in town, and more cooking and back to the mountain because we're outside, and swimming again. So it's similar to the fall session. And then basically, you know, we keep in mind as we're trying to put together our program again, kind of the effectiveness of an after-school program, and it helps young people to develop strong, positive relationships with the adults that they encounter there at school, be it staff or volunteers or an outside agency. It builds on a young person's strengths, you know, rather than focusing on their weakness. They have a lot of choice. And it provides an entertainment that helps young people develop positive relationships with their peers as well. And they have a time to be social and to work together and cooperate. It gives the youth challenges that they can rise to. Many of the students are engaged in activities that they've never tried before, and I've seen that firsthand. And provides an enriching creative activities that they can participate in, like guitar and hip hop and academic chess. They have opportunities to develop leadership and decision-making skills. And then also they focus on developmental needs of young people by nurturing their autonomy. Like I said, they have choice in the clubs that they want to sign up in. And then we provide all of these opportunities over a long term, so the kids are able to keep practicing at it, and something that they find might be something that's really interesting to them, they're able to take up again and kind of get to a different level. And so we just wanted to share that we share our expectation and permission form with the kids when they sign up and their families. We have the same expectations that we do during school. We want it to be a safe environment and an environment where everyone is welcome and feels, you know, content. And then the feedback that we've gotten from the community, they like that it's a diverse group of students that are attending. We have a wide range of activities that we offer. It's helpful to parents who are working later and need school supervision. there's less homework to be completed. We have most every student who's involved in a club also stays and does some homework time, and those evening hours are sometimes limited with other activities that are going on after school. There's assistance available from adults present, and that includes the availability that there's often time that they can reach out to a teacher, and also it's a nice time to watch them collaborate with one another. And when we have really engaging academic things that are going on at school, like science fair, it's really nice to watch them really support each other, and one will help out the other with something that they're struggling with. And then also people and the kids have reported that the clubs are fun. So I'd like to just really thank you. And it's been a really rewarding experience myself, kind of seeing it develop from nothing to where it is now. And it's also been really nice to watch the kids just really the ones that were the first to jump in, and then the ones that have come in afterwards, and see them get excited about it, and they want to know when signups are and when do classes start. And so it's been a really rewarding experience all around, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any questions for Michelle?
I have one. On the bottom right-hand slide where you talk about Club Lippman expectation and permission form.
Yes.
You were very brief on that, and I would sort of, if you can go back to it, I think it's the other corner.
Oh, it's not going to hear 1 second, sorry. I can,
There we go.
so I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to run over and peek at it a little bit closer. It's a little fuzzy. Mostly all that I said, I guess, was that it's supposed to be welcoming. We want all students to feel comfortable after school, so we're really firm about that, and we want them to feel comfortable and safe. They've got to use the same life skills that we expect and encourage out of them at school. Trustworthiness, truthfulness, active listening, no put-downs, personal best are some of those. Students attending Club Lippman after-school programs are expected to follow school rules, and they do. And if the child is misbehaving, we're reminding them that we can call home and ask them to be picked up. And if it continues to be problematic, then they can be dropped from an after-school program. I kind of mentioned this in a different aspect, but when attending homework club, they can read quietly and work on other, approved activities once they finish homework. But also what I was wanting to tie in is that when we have kids waiting for maybe a club that might start an hour later because we have one followed by the next, it's expected that they're going to come and still be there at school, not wandering, and participate in homework club. So we really get a lot of the kids taking part in and realizing that they actually appreciate that extra time to get work done while they're waiting for something else, or they'll come and do a club first and then do homework after. So we kind of try and pair that in. It's also expected that once a student's enrolled that they're going to attend. Some of the things are really popular and have a cap on how many students we can include, and so it's not fair to somebody that really wanted to go if somebody else is enrolled yet they're not attending regularly. So I do make sure that they attend regularly, and then repeated absences can result in them losing that spot and having another student that's waiting come in. So basically that's what we send home, and I wasn't sure if everybody wanted to read it, but we kind of try and keep them in line with at school.
I was particularly interested in if the child is misbehaving, because at the next grade level from Lippman, we were having issues with misbehaving. And I was wondering how your program, if you had issues with children, that you did have to utilize that clause in the agreement, and if so, if you see it getting better as the school year progresses, or
I just don't.
I just wanted to see if you were seeing the same kind of problems that are in a different situation.
Right. I don't see it regularly being an issue. I've never had to really drop somebody from the program.
Great. That's good to hear.
Maybe we have a chat with a parent. It hasn't really been problematic, so the kids are really pretty well behaved, or I remind them quickly and they come back around. And, it's just the same expectations we have of them at school. So it's nothing really so foreign or unusual. And it's mostly centered around the idea of we want everyone to feel happy and comfortable there. And so if it's not that kind of environment, we won't get that feeling. And actually what we find more of is kids that are having a chance to be with children that maybe aren't the ones that they sit with at lunch or are in their immediate group of friends, and can, yet through a common interest or trying out something in common, they have a chance to interact and get along in a way that maybe they haven't yet had at school. So I would think it's a little bit more collaborative and a little bit more open to building friendships, and we've had problems out of it. So it's been pretty positive, I'd have to say.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Michelle?
No, Michelle, I just want to thank you, for helping get this program going. Cliff and I, when we were the subcommittee, it's Lori and myself now, but we went up there last year, and you gave us a walkthrough with Principal Heckerman, and we were blown away.
Yes, thank you. We've worked really hard, and it's expanded, I think, even more our second year than, the first, and it's been a really rewarding experience for me personally, so I'd like to thank you as well. And it's been a rewarding experience for the school, and I think just the school climate, and, to leave the school at the end of a day, which sometimes might be dark, and that the school has been full of life for that many hours is really a nice, rewarding experience, and it just feels like it builds a nicer sense of community even. So we feel really fortunate to have that partnership with the city and appreciate the support.
Yeah, it was with a lot of angst that, for me personally, that, we closed the teen center.
I know that was difficult.
Certainly I supported that, but, I'm glad to see that we were able to fill it with something that's even much more collaborative, with the school. It keeps kids on campus, and I think it's a much better way, a better program. So, things kind of evolved, and
Right. It's sad to see the one lead to the other, yet I feel we've really had a great amount of participation, and I feel that the programs that we're able to offer there at school and the amount of kids that we're able to get participating, I think it's really a difficult decision I can imagine, but a really good one, I think, that's working out really well for the school and the community at large.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at those numbers. Compared to, the kids that were participating at the teen center.
Yeah.
About, a handful
yeah,
a day. Here it's just like,
when Madison was a teen, it was real active, and now it just kind of petered off, and, now it's, this is a great program. I'm very happy with it.
I think it's becoming a norm at the school now, too, because this will be our third year. So even the kids that were in sixth grade, that'll now be eighth graders, that hasn't been time at school where we haven't had this in place. Yeah. So I feel like it's just a little bit more of a norm, and something that I hear even from the elementary school, that the kids are excited about it. And I had a parent reach out to me from the elementary school that wanted to offer a class. And so I think it's just kind of becoming part of our school culture and part of the atmosphere there after school. And so I think we can expect that, support and also participation should continue to thrive. So.
Yeah, so thank you for your presentation. It's great to hear the, the breadth of what's offered and to hear how excited the students are. I know my daughter who's 7, when she stays after school, if I pick her up after school's ended but before the after school program is over, she says, "Why did you pick me up early?" And that's what you want to hear, because the kids really want to stay there. That's their time to socialize and to have that more unstructured time where they can choose the activities that they want to do. So I think it's a really important part of the school day. So I had a few questions. So what are the hours of the program? And, I know the city is contributing, in place of the teen center. Is there any payment that has to come from the students, or does the school district subsidize any of it, or is it just the city? And what kind of demand do you have? Do you see classes filling up and, there's not enough, there's just too many people interested in certain activities?
We do, let me think if I want to remember all of your questions. So the city, I do believe, covers the lion's share of the after-school program expenses. Mm-hmm. It's housed at Littman. Facilities are used at Littman. We get community volunteers. But the lion's share of it is provided by the city of Brisbane. And the participation, we do have classes that will fill up, and so now we pretty much regularly book 2 back-to-back cooking classes because I know I'll fill them both and still have to turn kids away. So participation hasn't really been problematic. There are some classes that will have a few less kids and might not fill it, but it's just a little bit more of a small dynamic, and that's okay. It's a little more intimate. Mm-hmm. but most of our time during the school year, we have about 50% of our kids participating. So it's a pretty good number that we feel pretty content with. And I'm sorry, what
And
were the other?
do the students have to pay for
No,
any of
sorry,
it?
thank
It's
you.
all included?
No, there's not an expense to the students, and I think that's really kind of a vital part of the program, and I think that's it's a worthwhile thing to offer the community as long as we're able with the support to do that. I feel that a lot of the kids don't get these experiences, and if it was something where there was a monetary contribution, that's when you start to see kids not attending that might not be able to otherwise have experiences like this. So I think as long as we're able to keep the expense from hitting families, it's a really nice thing to do and a thoughtful thing, and it serves equity, and so I think it's a thoughtful thing to do to not have the fee hit the families, and so there's no fee to the students at all.
Okay. And do all the students who stay after school participate in this program? Like, this is the after-school program?
Yes,
What was there previously before it?
We didn't have an after-school program. We did have homework help, and had a different name, and for whatever reason, it was kind of perceived to be a little bit more of a penalizing than supportive. And so I feel like we've really been able to change that, and I think the kids are finally starting to understand that the time that's just dedicated for homework with adults around to ask for help with their peers who are equally helpful, we've just kind of shifted that culture. Like, I've seen it from when it used to be the one versus now. So I think that's a really positive thing, and it's no longer seen as a punishment, but for the support that it's intended to be. So I think that's a really positive aspect as well. And sometimes there are kids that we really know that's the time when they're going to be sitting down and doing homework, and otherwise there may not be. So it's a really a good support for the students to have that there as a big part of the program, and it's available every day. And the hours of the program are 2 hours after school every day. So Wednesday is our early release day for teacher collaboration, and so the after school program still goes 2 hours after, so it just ends an hour early at 4, whereas all of the other days it goes till 5 o'clock.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. And Michelle, if you wouldn't mind, could you send me an email? I want to connect you with someone in Daly City.
Oh,
So
certainly.
if you just send me a reminder email, that'd
Thank
be
you.
great.
I'd appreciate that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all.
See ya. Okay.
Michelle?
Next up is oral communications number 1. Karen, do you want to speak at this time?
Hello, Karen Cunningham. In addition to the sadness of last week, thanks Terry for bringing that up, I really wanted to add something that I think, or I hope, that we can actually bring to our community, and that is the ability to ask people to speak out. And what I've seen is I have a lot of friends from various communities. I have a lot of black friends. And one of the questions that I've been asking my black friends all over the United States is, why aren't you speaking out? Why aren't you asking questions? I mean, last week was horrendous for all of us at so many levels. And their answer basically was, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to ask. And it was a little bit of a shock for me because, they're smart people like you and me. And they just said they didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to ask. So I've been thinking about this a lot over the last week. I've been very, very sad. And I would like us to disturb the silence. And I've written a letter to Congresswoman Jackie Speier and a lot of other people. But I think it has to start here. We have to ask the questions here in our town. that are difficult. And I know we can. We are a really great group of people, and we need to disturb the silence. I've asked this question of my city council quite recently about, inclusionary efforts. I really want you to do this. I want you to do this now. And I think this is a really great time for all of us to be very reflective on how we feel about our neighbors. I have some Chinese neighbors up on the Northeast Ridge who moved here to town and were very, very happy to move here and very excited about the mountain and whatever. And then they saw a particular movie and then they went, oh my God, they hate us. We're the outsiders. I think we need to really move together and make everything come together for everybody in our town, regardless of what we feel. So this might not sound very together, because I'm actually not very together about this. I'm not very together about this at all. I'm very upset. And I think we need to disturb the silence. And we need to ask questions, and we need to ask questions within our town, within our people, about, what we're going to do to make everybody in our community be together. It might not sound very together because I'm not feeling very together right now, but this is what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. All right. Anybody else from oral communications that would like to speak? Okay. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items that council members would like to pull to get some clarification on?
The minutes, item A, there were some edits that I suggested, but I think Sherry might have gotten the names mixed up, so I just want to clarify that.
Item A,
I'd make a motion to approve it as amended.
I did have a question for Randy. I was going to talk to him before the meeting, so since we're here, I'd just like to pull item D.
I'm sorry, B?
Item D is in dog.
D.
okay, so A and D,
Well, I thought we could just make the typographical changes on the,
Well, no, they're incorrect, so I need to clarify the suggested
Okay,
changes.
so a motion for B, C, and E.
so moved.
All those in favor?
I'll
Aye.
second.
Aye.
Aye.
That's right, sorry about that. All right, Lori?
Okay, so on the May 19th minutes, on page 2, under the presentation from San Mateo County China Trade Association, it should be George Mozingo and Robert Gottschalk. So
Robert Gottschalk.
those need to be just switched, the Robert and the George.
Okay.
And otherwise, and also, I asked Sherry to just make sure the last sentence was complete. It looks like she added the period at the end of the second paragraph. So with those changes, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'd second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And Randy, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that contract with EKI. So, all right, so in that table 1, so the data gathering and field investigations is at $107,000. I know that they did some previous work, but that is separate from this. So if you could just explain that briefly.
Sure. So the previous work that they've done is for the master plan. So that's done at a system-wide modeling level. It's at a higher
General plan.
focus, if you would, right? Yeah, that's a fair analogy. It's higher at a general plan level. This project is to design the actual construction for the project. So the very detailed level investigations they're going to have to do is go through and ascertain where all of the utilities are underground, to attempt to plot those in the underground in a three-dimensional perspective so that they can then understand where they can weave a pipeline through there. So that's why it's so much more work involved.
And then EKI, they don't do any of the actual work, they're just,
That's correct, sir. This is a design, in design only.
okay. And then the last part of the contract, where they provide program and project management services, and then as needed consulting services, that might happen, or do you anticipate that happening?
That's the functional equivalency of a contingency, sir,
Okay,
is what that dollar amount is in there for. In case something unanticipated comes up, we have a way to deal with it.
got it. Okay, so it's there, the council's already approved it, in case they need to do that additional.
Yes, sir, exactly. And it would be, the staff would have to give them permission to move forward with that.
Okay, good. All right, those are my only questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, so,
Motion to approve item D.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. All right, next is the public hearing part of our agenda. Consider adoption of resolution number 2016-35, overruling protests and ordering the improvements and confirming the diagram and assessments for the Sierra Point Landscaping and Lighting District. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. This is an annually occurring process to collect assessments for the Sierra Point Lighting and Landscape District from each of the property owners to maintain said lighting, landscaping, and irrigation. The fees have not changed from the previous year. Some of the particular projects, there's some money in the budget to do particular projects that we don't do every year. This year, we're gonna maintain the palm trees and the stone pine trees, trim them, treat them if they need to be fertilized, et cetera. There's a series of steps related to the public hearing, beginning with an opening statement by the mayor, and unless you have any questions for staff.
Any questions for staff? Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, so take a motion to open up the public hearing.
Do you need to read the entire opening
Need to
statement?
read the
Oh.
statement.
Okay. Okay, so where is
It's
that?
on page
Okay.
2,
Got it.
attachment A.
I know you said that, Karen, but I wanted to do that prior to the meeting. Got it.
These are incredibly confusing ones for us, sir. Isn't the landscape and lighting law just a joy to behold as we move forward?
Got it. Okay. This is the time and place set for a hearing on the engineer's report and the levy and collection of the proposed assessment for fiscal year 2016-17 for the Sierra Point Landscaping and Lighting District. These proceedings were undertaken pursuant to the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. The engineer's report prepared by the engineer of war consists of the proposed improvements, the boundaries of the assessment district, and any zones therein. The proposed improvements, the proposed diagram, the estimate of cost thereof, and the proposed assessments upon assemblable lots and parcels of land within the district. Any one of these items may be subject of protests or endorsements. You are asked to clearly identify yourself and the property owned by you so that your statements may be correctly recorded. The hearing is declared open, and I will ask the city clerk to report on the various notices given in connection with the hearing.
Notices have been mailed and posted as required by the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. Proofs of mailing and posting are on file in my office. A copy of the engineer's report prepared by the engineer of work was filed in my office on June 8th, 2016, and has been open to public inspection since that time.
Okay.
Motion to close public hearing.
Have a
I'll
second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Council discussion, or I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 2016-35, overruling protests and ordering the improvements and confirming the diagram and assessments, Sierra Point Landscape and Lighting District.
I'll entertain a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have another item under public hearings. consider adoption of resolution number 2016-36, imposing charges for funding the local Brisbane stormwater program and authorizing placement of said charges on the 2016-17 county tax roll and authorizing the county tax collector to collect such charges. Staff report, please.
Again, this is an annually occurring process. This year, we have not changed the fees. The fees are the same for each type of property as they have been since we began collecting fees. This NPDES fees obviously maintain the stormwater program and comply with the regional annual permit and reporting requirements. The staff report explains that the fees collected don't cover the entire cost of our budget. We're still kind of holding back and seeing if CCAG is ready to, or is working on adopting or going forward with collecting fees so I should say, passing a proposition to collect fees countywide. So at this time, our fee structure is the same as in prior years, or staff is recommending a fee structure that is the same in prior years.
Maintain the status quo for now until
Yes.
direction from the county. All right. Tara, do you have any update from CCAG since you're our representative?
Whoops. I can't say as I've gotten anything recent on the update on stormwater fees. I think that, or the Prop 218 process to raise them. I would have to get back to you on that. I don't have any current updates on the feasibility.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I think we go over this kind of annually, but do we have any target, Randy, you being the chair of the CCAG Supervisory Committee on Stormwater and stuff, because, I mean, eventually, we got to do something, and this is the Proposition 218,
Absolutely.
issue. You want to comment on?
100%. Sure, I would love to, and I actually delve in this both in my role as the chair of the Stormwater Committee for CCAG and as a director on the League of California Cities Board of Directors. We recognize this across the state, and I've seen the polling that has both been done by CCAG regionally and that has been done at the statewide level by the Board of Directors, by the League. And what people recognize is the idea of protecting our stormwater and protecting the receiving waters of the state of California has an incredible amount of support. Everybody thinks that's a good idea. It polls very weakly taking away the Proposition 218 process. The public in general has indicated that they are not willing to give that up yet. So we continue to try and find a way to work around that. The latest effect that we're trying to do is many people, probably people that look like me and that people that have to follow your NPDES programs would argue that we made a mistake when we've looked at how the word sewer in the act, in the Prop 218 Act was defined, and how really storm sewer, sanitary storm drains really ought to be included in that. So the next tactic I think we're going to try and take is try and include that is in there as well, so that then at least the efforts to comply with the NPDES regulations imposed upon us by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, we could treat the fees for that at least in the same way as we treat water and sanitary sewer, which is a little bit less cumbersome. It doesn't require quite the same voting and or negative voting process. So that's where we're going, but I don't have an answer for you today. We haven't solved it this year, and I don't know that we're going to solve it in the next year.
Well, it's kind of funny, in the counties, 9 counties surrounding the bay?
Right, yes, sir.
Recently,
Bay area.
overwhelmingly passed a proposition to increase the wetlands and the shorelines.
Absolutely.
And that's property tax related, albeit it was, $12, $13. I mean, not a whole lot, but it still had overwhelming support. So is this the polling being taken place statewide, or are we talking about collectively here in the
It's taking place both. It's taking place both, and I'm going to be mistaken no matter which one I say, but one of the counties actually tried to do a countywide poll. One of the North Bay counties tried to do one within the last 2 years, specifically for stormwater, for NPDES type fees, and it failed. and it just didn't get across. My sense is that it's pushback from the voters who are feeling like, hey, man, I already pay my taxes. What the heck are you guys doing with it? And we have yet to get that sense out that this really is rolled out from federal law, that's rolled out to state law, that's then rolled out regionally by the water boards, and we're stuck with it, and we really don't have a funding source. And we haven't really, I don't think, tried to go forward and message that, because it just doesn't message well.
Yeah,
It's
for-
just really hard to explain.
Yeah, in our microcosm, it is interrelated to San Francisco Bay, and these
Direct connection.
counties, and so it's,
Yes, sir. Yeah, what goes in these storm drains out here, these catch basins, goes right to the bay.
well, maybe we ought to, be the leaders, regionally and take the little bite first, and kind of tie it into that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's something to be discussed at CCAG, because people do support that. I mean, we had, 71, 72%, maybe even higher than that.
The last one for the bay protection one, right? That one, yeah, that one survived quite nicely.
Yeah, and this is so related to that, it just, how do we do it,
One is touchy-feely and one is, sewer. It's under the ground and it's not touchy-feely. It's not something people see, or can quantify, where everyone was very pleased with how Measure AA went countywide, and I think we were very surprised that it passed with the amount of popularity that it did, and I think that shows that as a area we're very environmentally minded, but it hasn't polled well when we've talked about a property tax or a property fee, and whether you have to get a 50% of property owners or you're going to get 2/3 of service users. So figuring out where there's a sweet spot on what kind of fee would be popular enough to get the support has been the big thing at CCAG, where you look and, if we fund a $12 fee, you could probably get it, but when you get up to where you're at $30 or $45, which is what it's going to take to actually fund it at these kind of levels per parcel, the popularity of it drops down to where it's not going to pass, whether you do it by mail or by a regular vote. So they've been trying to look at different ways to sort of package the thought process that goes into what needs to go on a ballot to make it where you don't waste a lot of your current funding on something that's not going to be able to pass. So I think and then there's so many other issues with sea level rise and how are we going to fund that, which is one of the things that Measure AA was trying to address. So it's pretty complicated. Some of the cities have already implemented a fee to cover their NPDES fees, and that's incorporated into their building fees, but most of them don't have enough to actually fund what needs to be on the ground right now. So it's something where they're trying to get countywide support to make it worthwhile to go after a fee that needs to be big enough to cover where we're going to be, or you're going to be coming back to ask again, and then you're going to have it twice as hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I know this is something that CCAG has been wrestling with for quite a few years. When I was on this advisory, the CMAC, that was 4 years ago, talking about this. Here we are.
And they keep saying the time's not right,
Yeah.
to go after it, and I think Measure AA slipped in with the times being right enough to get, and it was a low enough fee that people came together under the environmental flag to go ahead and pass it. But you start talking about it being sewer discharge treatment, and it doesn't have the same cachet.
Councilmember O'Connell, I think you did a great job describing the efforts and the challenges that CCAG has had over the years. And my gut read on this is that this is really going to come to a head in the term of this permit that we have right now, because by the end of the term of this permit, we're supposed to have come up with a plan to really deal with polychlorinated biphenyls, the PCBs and the mercuries and the copper, and that is going to be real money. The amounts we're talking about being short here right now are not real money yet. it's going to become a huge dollar amount. It's going to become a point where cities and counties are not going to be able to do it in any other way, and the issue is just going to, it'll explode a little bit, and then we'll have to figure out how to do it. But until then, we just can't, we just haven't been able to get the public to say, yeah, okay, we're willing to give you enough money to fix these issues.
Yeah. All right, so it's a public hearing. So a motion to open up a public hearing.
We don't need a motion for that, just open it.
Oh, okay. I'll open up a public hearing then. Anybody would like to speak on this matter? Okay.
Motion to close public hearing.
I have a second.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye. Okay, so council discussion or motion?
I said aye.
I'll second his
Okay.
motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, the last public hearing item, consider introduction of ordinance number 608, adding section 17.02.517 and some others. This is in regards to modifying conditional use provisions to include massage in various commercial and mixed-use districts, and prohibiting massage as a home occupation, and amending Section 8.10.100 of the municipal code, requiring that notices concerning human trafficking be posted in massage establishments. So, staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. 2014, the City Council adopted comprehensive operational regulations for massage establishments under Chapter 8 of the Municipal Code. Regulations were intended to provide the city with some operational control over such facilities, since the state at that time preempted local zoning requirements specific to massage establishments. Subsequently, the state adopted AB 1147, which restored local land use authority over massage establishments. In consultation with the police department in July of 2015, the council adopted a resolution of intent to initiate an amendment to the zoning ordinance regulating massage establishments. And in March 2016, the Planning Commission considered and adopted Resolution RZ 216, which is in front of you this evening. Just quickly highlight the body of the text amendment. One, it defines massage as a separate and distinct use from other personal services. And the massage definition is defined in Section 8 of the zoning of the municipal code where the operational standards were. So we're referring back to what the council previously adopted. The second was to allow massage as a conditional use in commercial and mixed-use zoning districts where other personal services may otherwise be permitted as a matter of right. And the third was to prohibit massage as home occupations except as home offices for outcall services. And these changes are discussed in detail in the materials you have before you that were considered by the Planning Commission. The last change is the wording in Section 8 of the Municipal Code, additional language for posting of regarding human trafficking, and so that will be an amendment to Section 8 of the Municipal Code. So with that, staff's recommending the introduction of ordinance number 608, and I'd entertain any questions you might have.
All right, any questions for staff? Clark?
Where did the part, I mean, why are we going after home occupation? Because I don't, I mean, one, I don't agree with that at all. You know, I mean, I'm not sure what's transpiring with that.
I think the difficulty in the question or the issue arises is whether or not the city is able to actually implement or institute the operational requirements under Chapter 8 in a home occupation. But that certainly is the council's prerogative. You can strike that provision if that's your desire. But that it seemed to create a somewhat of an operational difficulty to actually enforce other regulations on the books. So I think that was the primary concern.
well, quite frankly, I'm not worried about that in home occupation, and I would rather strike it, and I'd like to know how it relates to chiropractor's office that offers massage, being I think it was in CRO 1 area. Is he gonna have to get a conditional permit now?
Chiropractors under the ordinance are exempt from the massage establishment regulations because they're licensed by the state, and they're an express exemption under the ordinance.
The massage therapists that work in the chiropractor?
The chiropractor, I thought your question was whether chiropractors had to have were being treated the same as massage therapists.
No, my question is, our chiropractor here in town has a massage therapist that works in his office. So does he have to have a conditional permit? To me, reading it, it sounds like he's now got to have a conditional permit, and it just doesn't make sense to me, because to me, people that are certified massage therapists, a lot of them get licensed through the California Massage Therapy Association.
Correct.
And it's a very rigorous thing, and yeah, there's ethical massage and unethical massage out there, and
Just like with
I think,
anything.
Huh?
Just like with anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different. I mean, and you guys can laugh if you want, okay, but I'm actually a certified massage therapist for 34 years now, and go ahead.
I don't
I don't practice it, but
it's okay.
But but no, truthfully, but there's a big difference, and the California massage therapy, and you got to take continuing classes just like a doctor or a chiropractor and stuff like that, and any other profession. So I think we're getting a little bit. I think for little old Brisbane, a little bit over the top. I know we had some problems down here, but that's a commercial business, and that's different. And I say, yeah, we regulate that. But as far as in-home, I'm sorry, I can't support that, and I can't support it on not having some kind of leeway for a chiropractor office to have a massage therapist. We got to have some way that he doesn't have to get an additional use permit in order to have a massage therapist in his office. It just becomes, a regulatory nightmare to me. So, my 2 cents.
Are we just asking questions right now, or are we discussing? Okay.
Yeah. You have another question?
Questions or opinions? Because I certainly have opinions. So, but
I have
Lauren,
a question.
Yeah, I think we should start with the questions. So I had asked a few questions, and Chief Macias had responded through the city manager, and so maybe Commander Meisner can reiterate if he was, I don't know if he had a chance to speak with her about it, but I had asked about, so with this in-home massage issue, that wasn't something that I suggested. Some people were wondering where this came from. This was suggested by staff, but I had asked, what is the incidence of in-home massage establishments being used for trafficking purposes? And obviously there's legitimate massage businesses, but my understanding from Chief Macias was that this is becoming a growing problem in the Bay Area. That there's, because it's unregulated, as was mentioned, that there's basically homes that are being used as brothels, and there's no way, and people are being used as sex slaves against their will. It's not just about a massage that's not properly done. It's that it's being used for for sex trafficking. And I don't know if this is a problem in Brisbane, but it is a problem in other neighboring communities. And so my understanding is we're trying to be proactive and prevent this type of problem from happening here. So my question is, do we have any data on what the incidence of this is in in-home massage establishments in the Bay Area? And is this something that's increasing, or why is this being suggested here?
Well, unfortunately, there is no data to provide you regarding any incidents regarding this. However, and notwithstanding the benefits of massage therapy and profession that they provide and the training and everything, that's a respectful business, and I've had injuries that require it myself. So notwithstanding that as a profession, unfortunately, and you touched on it, massage therapy has, without a doubt, become a haven for human trafficking and sex slavery. As such, there's been legislation on the state, county, and local level to try to curb that. You see some of that in AB 1147 and our current ordinance. Even though an in-home establishment would be subject to those regulations, it would be extremely difficult for us to enforce that or check on those businesses to make sure they're in compliance and not being used in that illegal manner. It's quite a distinction between a retail business that's open for business. Customers can go in and out. We can go in and out to see what's going on. But when this business then moves behind closed doors in a private setting, it just becomes very difficult for us to be able to make sure that nothing illegal is happening. So it's for those reasons that we support the ordinance as written.
And I see that we do have a number of in-home massage operators in our town who are operating legitimately. Is there any way that we can exempt the existing businesses and have this apply to any new ones that come in?
Like any land use regulation, any business that was legally established has grandfathered rights to continue operations.
Okay.
Not
So this
subject to
wouldn't
new
apply.
regulations.
Okay, so what you're saying is that even if we included this provision about prohibiting in-home massage establishments, then it wouldn't have any effect on the existing businesses that do that sort of work from their home?
That have a permit from the city today, that's correct.
Okay, that's good. And I also had a question about about the status in Brisbane of our one, the Green Spa. Can you talk, Commander Meisner, about any incidences that have happened? I saw something on social media a while back about how there were some allegations, I believe, of some improper conduct, and I believe it was shut down due to some building code violations. Can you talk about that matter?
I can touch on that. We did see those postings on social media and proactively reached out to the people that posted. One of the people would not respond and didn't want to discuss it. The other person was forthcoming into the circumstances that occurred, and it appeared to definitely violate the provisions of the ordinance concerning sexual contact. We did an inspection on the business and found several building code violations as well that would also point in that direction. Those were corrected. Since then, that particular owner has left that business and is now owned and being run by a different person.
Okay. So would you say that the conduct, did that touch on the issues that are addressed here in this ordinance? On issues related to, not trafficking, but you said that there was some improper contact. Was that something that was put the customer at risk or put the operator at risk? What was?
Well, it was a customer that made the comments and made the complaint.
Okay.
Were those complaints acted upon legally?
At the end of the investigation, there was insufficient evidence to file a criminal complaint. A report was taken, though. The person who that complaint also didn't wish it to go any further criminally.
Okay, so.
Do you have any more questions?
I do have one more question. So the posting, the suggestion I had made about including the requirement in our local ordinance about posting that 1-800 number in massage establishments. Can you talk about whether that would be required? I understand that it still would be required under the civil code anyway, but what's the benefit of including it in our local ordinance?
That's right. It is required under SB 1193 and Civil Code 52.6 already. However, there's two advantages to including it in our ordinance. One is just a matter of public awareness. and to show that we support the efforts to thwart human trafficking and sexual slavery. The other is that it gives us a lot more leeway in terms of education and enforcement. If we rely simply on the civil code, it would involve us taking timely and costly police report and having to file with the district attorney's office, et cetera. If it's in the ordinance, we can use the administrative citation process to correct the problem, either by correctable citation, or if it's not corrected in a timely fashion, then they would receive an administrative citation which can be issued on the spot by the officer witnessing the violation.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
All right. Madison?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So, of those instances in which maybe occurred in neighboring communities where there were home massage establishments that were in fact involved in trafficking, were those people that held legitimate massage licenses, or were they just regular people who claim to have a massage business in order to have that be the cover?
I can't comment to any specific instances, though, but the prevailing scenario is that the people are obtaining legitimate licenses, but just not adhering to the ethical standards that they're trained to adhere to.
Okay. And then I'm curious as to why, if we would be preventing home massage, why then we wouldn't be preventing alcohol? Because, I mean, people who go, I think, to those types of establishments kind of know why if they're going there for that particular activity because they may know that that's going on. That's why they're frequenting that business. So why would then alcohol be okay? Because those same, it takes two, right? It takes somebody who is purchasing the services also. So why wouldn't you then prevent alcohol as well? Because then it can still happen. So why would you have one and not the other?
Well, I'm not sure in reality that alcohol is something we could actually regulate and control. We're talking about in-call as being a business that's set up, someone's getting a business license, they're establishing a location, and that we can regulate and check on. If someone's doing alcohol, it could be calling somebody from any location. We would really not know who's participating and from where and to where. And it would, in my mind, be similar to somebody who's hiring some other type of service, whether it be house cleaning or plumbing or similar type scenario. It's not something that we would know about or be able to regulate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just curious as to why that rationale was used. So thank you for explaining that to me. So those are all the questions that I have.
Okay. Terry?
So on the question that Lori asked about the signage, you're saying that having it in our ordinance would make it where if you walked into the establishment and there wasn't a sign, you could cite them?
If we're talking about the human trafficking sign for the SB 52.6, yes, if that were enacted in the ordinance, then if they didn't have the sign up, then we could issue a citation.
Okay. And I know that we are directing this at massage establishments, but as far as underpaid labor and having issues, a lot of service companies have those kind of issues, whether it's hair salons, nail salons, a lot of personal services. And I think that we're calling out massage as a specific service that is not one that necessarily is needed to have its own specific anti-sex trafficking, human slavery provisions, when there's been many reports on a lot of different businesses, whether it be clothing manufacturing or other things that take advantage of people. So we'll leave the rest of that for the discussion and after we hear the public comments.
All right, I have just one question. Commander Meisner, so in order to operate a massage business, you need to be certified?
I'm sorry, in
You
order
need
to
to have a
run one?
certified license to give massage?
Yes.
All right.
Well, you could be an owner and not necessarily be CAMTC certified.
The person that touches someone needs to be
But in order
Person
to
delivering.
provide a massage, you have to have that certification. But technically, you could be an owner and then hire a massage therapist.
All right, and that doesn't matter if you're doing your business out of your home or it's at a commercial space. You both need to be certified.
Well, I think under the current regulations, I don't believe we would issue a home occupation permit to someone who was not CAMTC certified. In other words, a person who didn't have that certification wouldn't get the home occupation permit because the person's not actually providing the service. The person would have to have that certification in order to get the home occupation permit. But if you were located in a commercial establishment, you could be the owner of the building, for example, and then lease the property, for example, to a person who would either provide the massage or a person who doesn't do the massage but just wants to run the business, and then that person would hire the certified massage therapist.
Okay, so let me just get clarification from you. So if you're running your in-home massage business, you do not need to be certified if you're the one giving the massage, or you do need to be certified?
Unless John tells me differently, my sense of it is you would have to be certified in order to get the home occupation permit because you're providing the service in the home, and you need to be qualified in order to do that.
My understanding is, and maybe to clarify, because since we're not nailing it on the head yet, even if you were to eliminate this provision regarding in-home, if someone had a business license to do in-home therapy, they would still have to comply with AB 1147 and our ordinance. It's just, that would be very difficult to enforce. So they would need the licensing and all the other provisions under Chapter 8.
All right, well, it sounds like then there are provisions that are regulating already some of the potential bad people that would take advantage of that. So,
And Mr. Mayor, just in response to Councilmember Clark's comment, under the ordinance, if a person is working under direct supervision of someone like a chiropractor or a doctor, then they are exempt as well. So that type of business would not have to get, under this example, a conditional use permit because that person is operating under the direct supervision of someone like a chiropractor.
okay. All right, well, we have a couple people. This is a public hearing. So, Karen Cunningham.
Karen Cunningham. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, everybody. I forgot to say that last time. I'm sorry, I was a little bit upset. Massage in home. Okay, so everybody needs to have a permit. Everybody needs to have a license. This is just my opinion, right? Every single person who is giving in-home services as a massage therapist needs to be licensed, in my humble opinion. I don't think we should have any licenses for any in-home massage therapy where somebody can own a license and then have the ability to hire other people. That opens us up to the issues that we're talking about here. In San Francisco, 20 years ago, I owned a business, and every single person who worked in my business had to have their own individual state license for massage. Why should it be any different here? At the same time, I would hate to see us prohibit massage as a home occupation. We've had it here for many, many years. We've got some really great massage therapists in Brisbane. I'm not sure what their current licensing is, but if we're going to move forward on this, and I absolutely agree, and I know we've got some horrible situations going on in the county and the United States where we do have people who are slaves and doing horrible things. We've got this crazy stuff going on in this country, but I would think that every single home licensee that has people working for them, those people should also be licensed as well. And, you know, we are a bunch of NIMBYs. So if my next door neighbor has got like this string of people coming through that doesn't look right, guess what? This is a town where we call the cops and say, hey, this doesn't look right. So prohibiting massage as a home-based occupation, I'm really sorry, I can't agree with that on any level. We've got some really wonderful massage therapists in Brisbane, have had them for a long, long time, and I'd hate to see them go away. I really would think, though, that every single person offering massage in Brisbane has a CAMT, is that correct?
Two different ones.
Whatever the licenses are, we should have people licensed, for sure. I'm making scribbles all over your paperwork here. The house cleaning thing, same deal. I mean, how do we distinguish, who's coming into my house to clean my home from somebody who has a business? I guess we need to look at these home-based business licenses a little bit better. I mean, I don't know that the people who are coming to clean my house are not employing, I don't know, use the word slave labor, but it's the same kind of thing, right? So how do we do this? It's a growing problem, and, I'm totally there relative to the slave and the sex trafficking thing, and I'm not shy about any of that, but, it's not just a little old problem for Brisbane. This is a problem for our entire world. But I would hate to see us suddenly say that all these home-based businesses that we have that are providing wonderful massage therapy are going to suddenly not be able to do that. So from the police perspective and from the business perspective, we need to come up with a better idea rather than just prohibiting massage as a home-based occupation, because we've got some great businesses going on already for a long, long time.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Carolyn Parker.
I don't know if everyone read my email, but I already sent an email saying I was pretty offended as a certified massage therapist, and I've been taking classes over the years, and I think that we should not people have all types of businesses in Brisbane. If the sex industry wants to get an inroad in a home in Brisbane, they don't need to use a massage. They can do all kinds of things. I mean, but why target a group of people who do so much good? Most people who are massage therapists have had a lot of training. A lot of them get into the field because they have been injured and they went and had some help, or they thought, they should go to a school and learn more, or because they were curious. And they continued their education. It's a field that if it doesn't fit, people don't stay in it. So the people who are massage therapists have a vocation, and they take their work very seriously. They study from each other, either at schools, or they go to each other's houses and learn certain techniques because the schooling is not available. They work in different types of organizations. This is a field that everywhere from people getting facials, people who have neuropathy, people who have had accidents, people who have had allergies. You know, this is a field that people go to because they believe that there's someone out there who can provide something besides a drug. And they're hoping that if they go to people, that they can have some relief. And I probably started when you did. I started in 1984 taking classes and have been working in the field ever since. I think that we shouldn't target massage therapists. We shouldn't say that because there is a sex industry that calls themselves massage therapists, that all the therapeutic massage therapists should go under the bus. And it really, really drives me crazy. So I would ask that we come up with a better solution than this. These are people who are experienced and helpful, and and if you do it long enough, then you learn, go teach someone else. It's a craft, and it takes a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Hey, anyone else in the audience like to speak on this matter? Okay, and just
Motion to close public hearing.
Before we close the public hearing, I would like to at least mention
yeah, that's what
that we have a letter.
I'd like to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we had a letter from Nancy Coleman, who was not in favor of prohibiting in-home massage therapy, and Carolyn Parker also provided her email. We also received communication from Betty Hagenow. Okay, she's from the Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Department of the county, or no,
No, it's
Area
the whole
Anti-Trafficking
Bay Area.
Coalition. So, talking about the the correlation between massage and trafficking, and that will be part of the record. All right, so we have a motion to close the public hearing.
A second that.
Second. All
We
those
have
in
another,
favor?
we had one more hand pop.
Oh, Karen? Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Karen Cunningham. I just want to talk to you. I mean, most of you know me and have known me for a long time. In 2008, my immune system crashed, and I nearly died twice. And I went through standard traditional medicine, and then I went through alternative medicine, et cetera, et cetera. And part of my alternative medicine therapy was intense massage, which I have twice a week to this day, from 2008 to here. So I probably shouldn't really be here and alive and well and happy, but I'm not taking any drugs. And I was on methotrexate, Plaquenil, injectable Humira, and a plethora of medications that, standard medicine said that I should be on for the rest of my life. And that's not what I chose. I chose alternative therapies, including healthy eating, which I now teach, as you well know, and I have massage twice a week. And I'm standing here as a person with multiple autoimmune issues who is really healthy. So I'm kind of the walking, talking testament that, massage is really great medicine. So, if we can remove the nefarious side of what might be there, and, in this town, we're really quick to sort of jump on and call the cops if we see something that's not right. If you see something, say something. But, from that perspective, I'm kind of talking testament that massage is about the best medicine that there is. Sorry, I just had to throw that in.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks.
Okay, so, council discussion.
So I would like to say that I think that I would hate for us to lose massage businesses in town or massage providers to attrition. And if we just allowed grandfathered in people who currently have business license to continue with massage, that would mean over the next few years that those people would leave and we wouldn't have those options available to us anymore. We wouldn't be allowing any new massage therapists in. And I think that it is something that I know many people who are in town that whether they do massage from their home or or in an office setting or with, in conjunction with a doctor's office or a therapy office, I think they're important benefits to having massage. I personally love getting a massage, and I am jealous of Karen having 2 a week because I would be so thrilled to be able to do that, and I'm glad that I don't require it. But by making people not be able to have these businesses in their homes, I think we should be, if that's our idea, that only our residential areas have no businesses, and that I think it would bring in people who do gardening should have a license. People who do massage should have a license. People who drive Lyft and Uber should be paying tax and license. People who do your plumbing, do your housework, do your handiwork, yes, any of those people can be bad, they can be shady, they can have bad big business practices, but not every gardener, plumber, or roofer or massage therapist is bad. And if we make it illegal to have those businesses in town, we are just hiding them, making them go underground, and making it where we don't know what's going on. And I think that everyone that has a business, a contractor, if they do a certain amount of work in town, needs a license. And I have no problem with having to license people, but to specifically call out massage or, establishments as being immoral, and this is a moral agenda here, I think is wrong, and I would not support it.
So you're saying that you don't support any of it?
I think it goes too far, and I don't think it needs to be a conditional use. So, no, I don't support
Okay,
any of it.
what about the California Civil Code, Section 52.6 provides that certain business post a notice in a conspicuous place near the public entrance of the business. Our we don't currently do that, so.
It's covered under the Civil Code, and so that is required to be adhered to if it's covered under the Civil Code. We don't have exemptions for state law, correct?
Okay, so then the places of business will have to post these notices. Okay, whether we pass this or not. Okay.
But just to jump in, I think Commander Meisner said it's required under state law, but the enforcement is the issue. Without having it in our local ordinance, our police wouldn't have the ability to issue administrative citations without having it tied to our local code.
Can you comment on that, Commander Meisner?
Yeah, having it in the ordinance, certainly it allows us to enforce it in a manner that we're more accustomed to here, which is, our way of doing a little education and enforcement. We can issue an administrative citation, which is just requires corrective action within a certain day. If we were forced to do enforcement under the Civil Code, it would be a much longer drawn-out process involving a police report and filing it with the district attorney's office and, that is really not within the spirit of how we would want to engage the business owners. So it would just make it a lot easier and allow us to handle it on a more local level if we had that language in the ordinance.
Under the civil code, is that just businesses that are open to the public, or is that home businesses would need to have a sign about sex trafficking in their home?
My understanding is any business, including in-home business, unless the city attorney has a different opinion on that.
I think, as Commander Meisner indicated earlier, even the in-home businesses are supposed to provide the same kind of, are supposed to comply with the other regulatory provisions of our massage establishment, or massage business ordinance, which would include the notice required under the civil code.
Madison?
So this ordinance feels to me a lot like what we were trying to do with marijuana, because I think when we were looking at delivery and the amount of plants you can grow at home, we were doing that because there have been problems in other communities and a couple of problems in our community, and delivery issues, people getting robbed because they were delivering marijuana, was not something that had occurred in Brisbane, but was something that happened in another community, and we were trying to be proactive. And I was very vehemently against the way in which we were trying to be proactive, because I felt like ultimately it was really hurting the people who needed it in order to prevent something that may happen at some point later on down the line. And so the way that I'm looking at this makes me have a lot of those same feelings. To me, what's written here is going to hurt people that are running legitimate home businesses. And so I don't support it. I think, if people want to engage in these types of illegal activities, they're going to find a way to do it. They're going to go on Craigslist. I mean, it's very obvious that there are ways that you can communicate what services you are providing. And I bet that many of those people don't have legitimate licenses, and that's why I asked, how many of these people that have been busted for providing these types of massages that are not really massages, how many of them actually have licenses? And it's very unclear, and I don't feel like there is enough of a case to be made that this is something that our community needs to regulate to that extent. There is no data and there are no statistics, and maybe because this is so underground that unfortunately we don't have that, but at the same time we don't have that data. So to me, I don't feel like this is something that we need to create this type of ordinance, and I don't think that our community is behind it. I haven't heard any support from anyone in our community saying that they'd like to see something like this happen, and I just don't want us to overstep our bounds and really, be trying to control everything. And so I am not in support of this. I'd be willing to entertain the posting regarding sex trafficking in the 1-800 number, I think it is, or information if you see something, this is how you report it. To me, that's reasonable, but taking away people's home massage business operations, to me, I think that's taking it a step too far, or a few steps too far.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that's in favor of doing that. Am I correct? Or
Well,
no one's in favor of
Somebody
doing
was.
that?
yeah,
It
that's
came
what this is. That's what this is.
Well, I think this is presented by staff.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not directing that to anyone on the council. I don't know how it got here, but what I'm saying is that for me personally, I don't support this, and I'm not saying that I'm saying any of you are. I'm just making it very clear why I don't support this and what I think this will do. And I think that I don't think it would be a good look for us as a council either to pass that.
So Madison, can I clarify what do you feel about, or how do you feel about the requirement of a conditional use permit?
For
not in-home, but any regular,
Well, I think that's something that was already passed, wasn't it?
That's what's in here. It changes it from a permitted use to a conditional use.
So what was going on when when this was discussed back in 2015? Because there were meetings that I had attended in 2015 when I wasn't on the council, and this was something that was talked about at length. So at that point, that was just discussion because I had been at those meetings. I had thought that was something that was passed, and I remember Terry saying she was against that at that time.
No, I think there were a number of requirements, but I believe the conditional use permit aspect is new. Perhaps staff can comment on that.
In 2014, the council considered and adopted substantial regulatory changes. In 2015, in response to AB 1147, we brought forth the fact that the council now had more land use authority, and at that time, the council majority adopted a resolution of intention for the Planning Commission to look at and make a recommendation on whether certain land use regulations could be changed. That's what's before you tonight, in particular concerning the conditional use permit as opposed to a permitted use in the commercial districts. It also concerns whether or not the home occupation permit would be prohibited or not, with the council's discretion. And then we also added, not as a land use issue, but as a regulatory item, the notice, the posting of the notice that we've been talking about. So the land use issues are really what's before you tonight, and obviously it's up to the council. They can continue to have massage establishments be permitted uses as currently exist or not. You can deal with, continuing to allow home occupation permits or not, and you can decide whether or not to require the posting of the notices under the ordinance as opposed to under state law. Those are sort of if I had to categorize the three major topics that are before you tonight.
If I could just piggyback on that, Madison. So as far as getting a business license, whether it's permitted use or conditional use, same process, except that when you have a conditional use, you have to go before the Planning Commission and have a hearing. But it doesn't change anything in regards to your business unless the Planning Commission required some changes to be made.
Right. The Planning Commission would have the discretion to impose certain land use regulatory items on a matter that currently don't exist under the permitted use. Under the permitted use, it's whatever's allowed in that zoning district would be allowed for that for that particular type of business.
So when someone applies for a business license, they are notifying the city that I am doing this business, and so it's
correct.
Aware.
Right. In other words, if you come in for a business license for a massage establishment, if the council were to pass what's before you, the city would require that person or the property owner, whatever, to go through and get a conditional use permit before the business license would be granted, as opposed to now, if it's a permitted use, then you would be able to get the business license, assuming, for example, that that you could show that the person was a certified therapist, for example.
John?
Maybe I just want to clarify one thing with the home occupation. The home occupations, which are regulated in a separate area of the municipal code and the zoning ordinance, they are not a discretionary permit. They are a set of performance standards. So any business license, they're subject to some performance standards. And I defer to the city attorney, but I wouldn't expect, again, because what you're regulating here with the conditional use permit are specific zones that allow personal services, right? And that's what you're talking about, turning identifying massage as a conditional use permit separate from personal services. Home occupations don't list particular uses, so the upshot is there would not be a use permit requirement for a massage establishment in a residence. It would, if it meets the performance standards for a home occupation and it meets the police department's operational requirements, they would be issued the permit.
All right, so
without a use
So you
permit.
could keep it separate. You could keep home occupant.
It's in the
and
code, it's
commercial.
separate, absolutely separate.
Okay. All right.
So can I respond to Lori?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, there was a misunderstanding, because when I was at that meeting, I didn't realize that that was just an intent to pass that conditional use permit in the commercial areas. I thought it was something that had actually happened, so I thought this was just an update on what has just recently come before the council and how this is now, something that's now being added in that realm. For me, I mean, my biggest thing about all of this was the home massage, and that's something that was crossing the line for me. I still don't feel like there's a really strong argument for the conditional use permit in the commercial zone. But, I mean, being able to post that poster is something that I am in favor of. But, scale of 1 to 10, mostly against the regulations of the home massage, and then following behind that would be the conditional use permit, and then on the other end of the spectrum, like a 1 over here, I'm okay with the poster. Is that
Yeah, no,
clear? Okay.
So I have a follow-up question, so for John perhaps. So how does a conditional use permit help prevent the sex trafficking issues? I mean, obviously it brings, I guess, local land use authority to there's a review. Second, there's a level of review, I understand, that goes before the Planning Commission, but how does it address the issues that we're really trying to get at?
Again, I think land use is a tool, land use regulation is a tool. I don't think it's a end-all, be-all. Does it provide a little more scrutiny of a land use, because someone has to come down here, an operator has to come down before the Planning Commission, state their case, raise whatever questions that your representatives on the Planning Commission raise. That certainly is, I think, that there's an element of sort of scrutiny that comes through that process. The police department can apply certain conditions that may be more related to the business, as opposed to Section 8 of your municipal code, which relates to the operations. So they have a little more flexibility in terms of the tools they might impose and conditions they might want to impose that are maybe site-specific or unique to that particular business description. But again, it is just another tool to help get to the issue. Certainly by requiring a conditional use permit is not going to make whatever issues are out there that are far beyond the city's control and the Planning Commission and the council's control. Those kind of cases may still arise in the future, but we're just trying to provide sort of the most optimal and flexible tools so these kind of businesses can be held to the standards by which they're legally supposed to operate.
Okay, thank you. So, I hear what the public is saying. There's a lot of legitimate in-home massage businesses. And I also, I understand, I volunteered in this area. That's how I was able to contact this Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Coalition, because I've worked in the trafficking, in the anti-trafficking advocacy field as an attorney. I've represented some trafficking victims. And so I feel, like I've seen, kind of up close and personal this, I've heard the stories, and, I continue to volunteer my time. I went to a Community Day of Action a few years ago, and where we went to establishments throughout the county to make sure that they were putting the proper postings out. And I attended there was a press conference that Congresswoman Jackie Spear put on, I believe it was last year, talking about how this is actually a problem in our communities. Maybe not in Brisbane so much, but I saw in the news just in this past January, I believe, right before the Super Bowl, there was an incident in South San Francisco at one of the hotels where, were it not for a hotel clerk noticing something was amiss and contacting authorities, there was a whole scheme of trafficking going on at the hotel, people bringing people into rooms. And so she reported it, and she was able to save, the lives of 5 potential trafficking victims. So, I think we can't just turn our shoulders and say this isn't happening in our communities, because it's happening right next door, and it's something that could happen here. That being said, I think our massage ordinance is very extensive. We went through that review, and so I'm comfortable with it as is. I see some benefits of having the additional scrutiny with the conditional use permit requirement, but I don't feel very strongly about it, because I think that there are certain requirements already out there that any massage establishment is going to have to adhere to. The one thing I do want to include is the posting, because I think having that posting in any commercial massage establishments in Brisbane is extremely helpful, because potential victims or members of the public who may see something that's not right, they see the phone number, and it's just a simple notice, and they know that they can call and have it investigated. So I think it's a simple way to just raise awareness of the issue, and it's not burdensome to the establishment. As to in-home massage establishments, in hearing what the public has said, I see that, like Karen Cunningham said, we have a very watchful community, and I think if something was really happening at our homes, like has been the case with the marijuana growing, I'm fairly confident that neighbors would report it. So, in balancing the needs of our community and for the people who do this business from their homes to provide this important therapy, I don't think that's something that we need to include in it. As was stated in the letter we got from the Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Coalition, she noted that our hotels have not gone through the training. The employees can be trained to look out for trafficking issues. And so I would encourage and hope that our police department can reach out to the 2 hotels in town. Commander Meisner has something to say on that.
Yeah, actually would like to say something on that. We actually got ahead of that, and we have an officer that's liaisoning with the hotels, and we did provide training for both hotels, 4-hour training for both hotels with the hotel staff. So they did not attend the other training in November, but likely because they felt they'd already received that training from us. So just want to give kudos to the officer that's involved with that. Officer Sevilla, who's been reaching out to them, has already addressed that issue.
Okay, great, excellent. Well, that's good to hear. So I think the hotel training is important, and I agree. We don't want to target legitimate massage establishments. I mean, that's not the intent behind this. The intent was to raise awareness of the problem, and I think that can be most easily done by requiring the posting of the notice, and then our police department could enforce it. So that's the one thing that I would like to see in this.
So can I make one more quick comment? The letter from the Sex Trafficking Coalition, they do specifically mention the hotels. And if we really wanted to protect everyone, we should have an anti-trafficking notice in every business, in every hotel. My concern is that we are calling out massage establishments. I mean, I've gone to many nice day spas, and they do haircutting and nails and massage or facials. And to say that because they have a massage program, which makes them the day spa, it makes them subject to having to post this notice and conditional use, which I would not be for. Granted, nobody would really want to see 6 nail salons or 6 hair salons all go in back to back in an area. And obviously, if that were to be requested, you would assume, just like in South City and Millbrae, they've got a bails bondsman with the 24-hour massage place right behind it. Those aren't the places that we would go to. They're the places that you would want your police department to check up on and have limited hours. But I think that as leaving it as a permitted use, we still have regulations that stops them from being late night establishments, because we have guidelines on when businesses can be open in our commercial districts. So I still feel that if the sign is part of state law and it's a matter of enforcing state law, I don't have a problem leaving it in. But I do think that you're seeing a lot more problems with trafficking in the hotels with a lot more awareness availability. So why aren't we putting those signs there?
Is there, can staff comment on, is there a requirement? I know there's a number of different types of establishments where the signs are required. Are hotels included in that?
I believe they are. I haven't memorized the list, but there's a variety of businesses, including like nail salons and bars and whatnot, that anywhere where they perceive that human trafficking could be a problem. Because it's not just a sex trade, it's other services that people are being exploited for. So as a result, there's a rather extensive list of businesses that are required to post it under the civil code.
Well, if that's the case, I'd like to see the list of what businesses are required to have that, so that we're not just calling out one specific type of business. And if we're going to enforce the civil code, then I think we should enforce it equally.
Mark, haven't heard from you.
Yeah, you did. Right at the beginning, but I'm okay actually making it a conditional use in the commercial districts. It just gives more latitude, and I think that's where you would have potential more problems, and I don't think an ethical business would have an issue with it being a conditional permit, conditional use, because, we got a list of what conditional uses are, from, bars, cultural facilities, educational facilities, gasoline stations, meeting halls, outdoor sales and rental, places of worship,
It's just adding it to the list.
Yeah, adding that to the list. I do have a problem with the home occupation. I just don't, I think that is just overreaching, and no.
Yeah.
And so what I would suggest, and this is certainly up to, both Madison and Terry, where they're at, is leave it as a conditional use permit, eliminate section 9 totally, and then move section 10 up into 9. I'm not even sure that's that. Which is on page, the red line version. Doesn't have a page number, but it's 17.44.025, prohibited uses. It's at home occupations, which massage establishments are prohibited except that home offices for alcohol massage. Just eliminate that whole thing. And then, and I'm okay with the posting, and I like Terry's idea that we post it in, establishments,
Whatever establishments that the civil code, I'd rather just not see it called out.
So I'd ask, I guess both Terry and Madison, would you be okay as, with conditional, with adding massage establishments to the SCRO 1 and 2 and Sierra Point and the other ones, putting this massage establishments as a conditional use? Because I don't see a problem with that. It just gives,
It's just calling out another use.
Huh?
It's not signaling out massage.
Well, it's defining massage as distinct is one of the areas, that massage is different than any other personal service. And then it's making that personal service the only one that's conditional use. Hair salons wouldn't be, nail salons wouldn't be, all the other personal services would not be, and so it is calling it out as separate and
From a
distinct.
personal service. Okay. I'm comfortable with what you asking, Clark.
So, but
You
my
clear?
question's to
Yeah, I know. I'm just
Terry
giving
and
my
Madison, because
input, so.
because if if they don't want to support it, then I'm okay not supporting it too. I mean, from that perspective, and then we can just move on and just leave it in situ, and that's that.
Well, it
result.
sounds like you're fine with the sign, with the,
As long as
making the
it's-
ordinance, including the civil code section 52.6, right?
As long as it's for all businesses that applies to.
Well, just on that point, this is being put into the massage establishment regulations. If we were to put that language into the other businesses to which Civil Code Section 52.6 applies, we would have to go and we would have to amend other sections of the code to make that an express condition. Currently, as Bob has said, the Civil Code lists, I don't know, there must be 10 or 15 different businesses where this notice is to be posted. I was trying to access it to try to give you that list. I wasn't able to do it, but it covers a variety. But that notice requirement is not set forth in our municipal code as requiring those businesses to post it. It's a civil code situation. We added it here.
So it only applies if you're trying to, no one is going to go and enforce it unless they're trying to nail somebody on something that they're not complying with. It's only enforced in our civil code or our municipal code at will if someone wanted to pursue it.
If one of the businesses that is required to post a sign did not have the sign posted, and there was the activity going on, among the other things you could cite them for would be a violation of 52.6 of the Civil Code. As Bob has indicated earlier, by having it here as to a massage establishment, first of all, the department would try to educate the person running the business. You need to have this sign posted. That's the way things work here in this town correctly. If the business flat out refused to do it for whatever reason, then you could issue them an administrative citation as opposed to issuing them a citation under the Civil Code, which would have to be processed through the district attorney's office. So, I mean, that's what it kind of boils down to.
All right, so
So I just pulled up the civil code, and it looks like there's not that many places that would be applicable in our town, because a lot of them are like emergency rooms and urgent care centers and truck stops. And so the ones I'm seeing on the list, like it shows me that it wouldn't be a huge list. It would be where alcohol is sold, bus stations, and massage establishments. So I don't think, I like Terry's suggestion of, having that posting requirement incorporated into the local ordinance for each place that is required.
It's not hotels or?
I'm surprised it's not hotels, because that's the one that makes.
I don't see it on the list, but I am.
Well, if the hotel serves alcohol, wouldn't that
Maybe that's how I
fall under that category? I mean, I think we were looking at it that, I don't know how you would take out any place that sells alcohol then. Seems like a hotel would be part of that.
But there are plenty of hotels that don't sell alcohol. Like if you go to a Super 8 or an inn, a lot of them, I think those are the types of places also that, I mean, these types of things happen all over the place. It's hard for us to say, I think it's naive to say exactly what the face of trafficking looks like, because it'll go on, at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, in the penthouse suite, and it may go on, in an inn, where the room goes for $45, and it's not a place that you'd ever want to stay. But I think that, I'm just so surprised that hotels wouldn't be included, because I think a lot of these hotels that don't sell alcohol are probably the ones that might be selected, but
Right, so
anyway, that's not for tonight.
Help us
That's
move
not for
along,
tonight.
though. I mean,
Yeah.
we could stay here.
That's not for tonight's discussion.
Discuss the nitty-gritties of this thing for hours. So we've all spoken. I mean, so Clark had asked Terry and Madison, you know, would you be okay with the conditional use in the commercial areas, adding massage to the list? Now, granted, Terry had said yes. You know, we are calling out massage, you know, from the other personal use and personal services, but it is just adding this to the list. Is that okay with you? And as well as adding it to the ordinance, the Civil Code Section 52.6.
I think I'm kind of in like Clark's zone over there, where the at-home is the biggest issue for me, versus the conditional use is not as much of an issue. I think that, like Clark said, any legitimate business owner who really wants to open an establishment would be probably willing to approach the planning commission about that. I'm just concerned that I don't, you know, if somebody makes a legitimate case, I'm just worried that they would be shot down, and so I just wouldn't want that to happen. But I think that it's okay as a conditional use in our commercial zones. But it's not something that I'm really not strong either way, to be honest,
Okay.
on that front.
Just to help us move along, okay, so you're okay with conditional use
I'm okay.
commercial and adding that language. Okay, and Terry?
So to do that, it would, under discussion point 1, defines massage as distinct. That would be something that we would be making, that it's distinct, a conditional use, and, you know, I think 3 has been
Yes.
gotten out of there. I still think that if we want to, I don't think the way this is listing it as distinct from other personal services and calling it out, I can really support. So,
Okay.
I
I don't know if there's any other way that we could do it without calling it out, unless you wanted to list a bunch of other personal services.
well, you could add the, you know, if it's the signage that it's coming down to, you could add that to the massage ordinance without all the rest of it. But, you know, I'm on the minority on this one. And it's,
Well, you know, Terry, some of us are just more ambivalent to it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying I'm okay with it, and I think, you know, either way, and I think Lori said the same thing, and Madison said the same thing. I would personally like to see us at least get something 5-0 and move forward, you know, regardless of what it is, because this is something we can always come back and revisit if we find it's problematic, you know. And I understand we're trying to be proactive, but, you know, by the same token, you know, we got one place in town that falls under this.
Yes.
And I think posting the signs is a good start, but, and see how it goes, see where that goes. And if we start getting a whole lot of businesses that are popping up and all of a sudden the shopping center's all massage and stuff like that, then we got a problem.
well, obviously, I mean, and nobody wants that. I mean, you drive through Tacoma and you go through this section that's near the Army base, and, you know, it's all, you know, 2 a.m. massages, and of course, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
But I don't think that our business code would allow for that anyway.
Yeah.
And so I just feel bad that the reason can't support it is because we're calling it out on the guise that it is the method of sex trafficking that we need to regulate heavily. And while I think that can be the case. I don't think that we need to regulate this way for it.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to make a motion, Clark, to take that out, or are you going to include it?
Well, yeah.
So we can move on.
Okay, I'll make a motion just to leave item K in and eliminate the rest then, which is each massage establishment shall post a notice required to be posted under State Civil Code Section 52.6 concerning human trafficking and slavery.
I'll second.
And eliminate all the conditional uses and the home occupation.
Madison, second.
Okay.
I'll support that.
All right, all those in favor?
I'll say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a consultant that has a plane to catch, I think.
Yes.
So if we could get to item, I think it's item new business B.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Lloyd, do any council members have a problem with moving item B under new business before item A under old business?
No.
No.
Okay,
When we're done with item B,
take a
we
break.
can take a break.
Sure. All right, Lloyd, come on up. Or John, if you're going to.
Again, I'll just do a real quick summary, and Lloyd will be here to answer and elaborate. Again, the Planning Commission has been involved in a very thorough and elaborate review process of the Baylands, scheduled a public hearing for July 28th of this year to consider their recommendation to the council. Given that we hope they'll wrap up their public hearing and deliberations in the near future before the council went on your summer break, thought it'd be appropriate for the council to have a discussion of how you wanted to go about having the Baylands hearing processes roll out. There was a discussion with the Baylands Subcommittee, Mayor Lentz and Councilmember Conway, late in July. I laid out some options, and what you have before you is kind of a summary of one of the options that seemed promising based on that conversation with the subcommittee. And again, what it looked at was potentially scheduling a series of public hearings dealing with particular topics of concern, as opposed to having sort of a generic open set of hearings. And then the hearings, the subjects that were identified here were, again, based primarily on the topics that took a lot of the Planning Commission's attention and public attention in the Planning Commission process, but certainly the council, you have the ability to modify this however you see fit, or if you want to take a different approach at this, that's fine too. This is just kind of for you to, we want to give you something to react to and a suggested approach forward. And again, this also, schedule like this, assuming we could commence with it at the end of September, could potentially allow you to have a number of hearings before the close of the calendar year, if that's of interest to you in terms of having the public hearing aspect of this or the informational hearings completed by the end of the calendar year. With that, I'll suggest Lloyd be available for any questions that come up, but I'll turn over to the council for your sort of discussion and feedback.
All right, well, any questions for John? Or should we just bring up Lloyd? If we need to, or is the council okay with the schedule and the process that's been laid out?
One comment I have is that I'd like to see the sustainability framework included at least in the beginning and perhaps at the end, so that we have that in our mind as we're going through the review.
Yeah, you know, Lloyd, you want to come to the podium and because that is something that we did talk about at the subcommittee level. And Lloyd, if you could just talk about how we will be incorporating the sustainability framework into the guiding process.
Sure. I did not mean to create havoc with your schedule or agenda tonight.
That's fine.
The idea of the sustainability framework is where the Planning Commission is heading as one of their basic principles is that the sustainability framework be incorporated into the general plan as it would be appropriate in terms of general plan policies, and that would be consistent with the environmental impact report and essentially give you environmental clearance for adoption of the sustainability framework, the policies that would work at a general plan level. We could have one meeting specifically to discuss the sustainability framework and those provisions that would be at the general plan level. But otherwise, realistically, the sustainability framework and all of its provisions work through every subject we're going to talk about. So when we get into sustainable transportation, transit orientation, water supply, energy, and all of our environmental subjects. So really your decision as to whether you want to have one night focused on the incorporation of the sustainability framework into the general plan.
Ask Council Bill about that.
Any questions? I'm part of the subcommittee.
Yeah, I know.
I just more have a comment about the schedule.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Is this something that we're really aiming to finish before the end of the calendar year, or is it just that it would be nice to have this finished before the calendar year? Because I feel like this is a very aggressive timetable. I think for us as council members to absorb everything, that this is a lot very smashed close together. And I really feel like it needs to be spaced farther out between meetings.
Well, you know, I mean, the schedule that is laid out is what it is. If we need more time, then we'll just have more time. But it helps to put forth a schedule, and you know, to help keep us on track.
Well, I'm saying I think we still should have a schedule. I'm just saying that I don't know that there needs to be a hearing every 2 weeks, because I think that, you know, we need to be spending time also reading and absorbing everything that's included in this major document, and I don't know that 2 weeks in between each one will allow us enough time, along with all the other things that, you know, maybe pressing matters that we need to address too. I'm not saying throw the schedule away, but maybe space these hearings out a little bit more. And I don't know if that's possible, if that's spreading it too far out, if it's every other week.
Kind of up to us as a council. It is, we set a very aggressive schedule. It's not even including the regular meetings in between. Because we said we'd do one meeting a month, a regular meeting, so this schedule doesn't even include those.
Because this has a bunch of special...
It says regular meeting, but that is a regular schedule meeting.
So it's 2 Baylands meetings a month, 1 regular meeting a month, is that right?
That is correct. That's what.
So, I mean, think about all of that material, just reading this, plus, I mean, look at the packet we had today. I want to be very honest about my capabilities, and I want to be able to give this the attention and the focus that it desperately needs from all of us. And I think that this is too aggressive. I'm just laying it all out there. I want to be honest about what I can do, and I want to do it right. So.
Okay.
Personally, I think that I've been watching most of the Planning Commission meetings, and they've gone through, over a year with their 2 banker boxes filled with EIR. That's all stuff we need to read. My personal anticipation of the workload was that once the Planning Commission finishes their deliberations and sends a project, or a recommendation, I shouldn't say a project, a recommendation to us on land use, at that point, it's going to take looking at their recommendations and how they relate to the EIR to see if they are adequate. And that's going to take a lot of reading, an amazing amount. I mean, it's 2 banker boxes filled of reading, plus what's been happening that we may or may not be privy to, have we not been watching the ongoing Planning Commission meetings. So there's a lot of discussion and a lot of text that's going to need to be reviewed. And from hearing people who have looked at that entire document, and I'm still sure there's things that they've missed in that document, it is going to be more than, a few hours of reading a week. It's going to be a full-time job if we try to do this schedule.
Yeah, and three of us, and you guys are doing work too. It's not like we're all retired, and we all have daily commitments that take up most of the chunk of our day. So
We have lives outside of the city council?
We have day jobs.
Are you kidding me?
So, I just want to be honest about what my capabilities are, because I'd hate for this to be the area where we don't give it the attention and the time that it needs. We can't afford to do that with this.
But I think it's really going to depend on what form the Planning Commission's recommendation come to us, and I don't really know what form that's going to take, whether they're going to be citing particular things in the EIR that they think are, consistent or non-consistent, or adequate or not adequate. I don't know how they're going to format that to us so that it is something that some of the research has been done for us, even if it is done in a way that specifically addresses concerns that they have or why they've made recommendations. I think it's going to be very important for staff to take those recommendations and process it into something that we can digest with references to what sections of those 3 banker boxes that we're going to need to read.
Well, so, I definitely hear where both of you guys are coming from. And you're right. You look at this schedule and it is aggressive. Really what we're doing here, asking is, are these dates okay for you? Because, we might, on Tuesday, October 11th, we're dealing with site remediation, and we might need the next meeting to be dealing with site remediation. So, just because it says for that date, site remediation, and that's really what that's all we're gonna be talking about, it might extend to the next meeting. So, really what we're asking of you is, are we okay adding an additional meeting to the month? And so having one meeting for regular council items and having 2 meetings a month to just deal with the Baylands. And I hear what you're saying about you really want to do it right. And I hear what you're saying, and we definitely should be doing that. And so let's focus, some fairly intense, oversight.
I have a suggestion, Cliff. Because I hear what you're saying. How about if we start out as a goal, as a council, to have public hearing number 1 in September 29th, which would basically be an overview, and as Lloyd was talking about, how to incorporate the
framework,
the sustainability principles into the general plan. And then we have our regular council meetings, and then on September or December 5th have a second meeting instead of packing them together. That gives time to assimilate information and study information, then go to point 2 and kind of spread it out that way. And then,
So,
I haven't heard from Lori, but I'm looking at Terry and Madison.
can I ask a question? We've put on this tentative schedule land use as the 6th meeting.
Yeah.
Isn't the land use what is going to drive remediation, closure, traffic noise, greenhouse gas, water supply, economics, all of it? So shouldn't we look at that before we try to see what these issues, how they correlate?
That's a question.
Yeah, can you talk
Lloyd,
about the
if
order
you
of
wouldn't mind, yeah, because you're the one that set up the list of items in the schedule.
Right, and there's really two different ways of how you would look at land use. One is, as you just suggested, land use as the first issue. What is it that we want to see in the Baylands, both type, intensity, and location of uses? And then go to the various environmental issues that follow from that. The other way of approaching it is looking at the environmental issues and then building to land use. And that was really the order that the Planning Commission looked at. So they looked at all of the various environmental issues, took testimony regarding biology, cultural resources, site remediation, so on, then started looking at, based on an understanding of public input regarding those environmental issues, what were the land uses and land use intensity they wanted to recommend to council.
But we're going to be starting with a recommendation from the Planning Commission on their recommended land use intensity. And so at that point, if we want to change that intensity whichever direction, then it almost seems that we would want to look at that first to see if the EIR, which is what we're really, one of the items we need to look at besides intensity, is if it is adequate for the intended intensity. And having heard many of the people speak about that during these meetings, we don't know what the remediation is because we don't know what the use is. We don't know what the cleanup levels are because we don't know what the uses are. And so you're going at it half blind if you don't know what your goal of intensity is until the end, because then half the work you've done may or may not be adequate.
I think in the way you describe it, that there's a difference between the way the commission needed to approach their hearings and the way you are. They approach their hearings, what is it we're willing to recommend to the council? You're starting with a recommendation, starting with applications. So starting with the land use and working through the environmental issues afterwards would work just fine.
I mean, that would be having listened to a lot of them, that just seems like the logical way to go, because, how can we discuss water supply if we don't know what we're supplying?
Yeah.
So to clarify, when you say land use, are you saying the land use that will be recommended by the Planning Commission, or that's included in the applicant's?
Well, we would look at what the applicant is asking for and what the Planning Commission is recommending, and we are going to need to come up with something that meets our goals and the community's goals. So one would assume that since we're coming up with something that is a recommended land use from Planning Commission and the request from the applicant, we need to come up with some sort of merger at whatever spectrum that we're looking at that makes us happy and the community happy and maybe the developer happy, to come up with an idea of where we want to start, and then find out if the documents provided to us on the environmental, the traffic, the noise, the economics work, and if they're adequate, because that will bring us to that goal.
So in public hearing number 1, there will be an overview of the application submitted by the developer, as well as the Planning Commission's recommendation. So would that include land use element discussion?
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, that would, and the idea of the first hearing is really taking what were the first 2 workshops at the Planning Commission and combining it into one night. And the reason for that is you have a very complex project. This is not just simple development project that you say this is what's being proposed. You have a land use development that is proposed. You have in the EIR 4 scenarios at equal level of detail. You have site remediation. You've got a proposed water supply agreement. And so we would walk through all of those issues. And I think the suggestion of taking how the sustainability framework fits into that will take up one meeting. The idea of the land use meeting is to focus on recommendation, or what land uses you feel comfortable with. I think that first meeting will deal with land use, but it will deal with all of the issues, and here's all of what we have, and all of the considerations and major issues. Then if you went to land use next, that would focus on the application that you have from UPC, the Planning Commission's recommendation, what those 4 scenarios and alternatives in the EIR are, and then the public testimony you would expect would be aimed directly at, we believe, what the commission or what the public thinks about the commission's recommendation, the applicant's proposal, the various scenarios. Then you would go to the individual environmental issues, and we would talk then about these are the impacts identified at various levels of development, and essentially once you got to deliberations, you're going to loop back to land use.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
You're going to be there
that's-
either
you could-
way.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, when I see the land use here, towards the end of the hearings, it's really what do we think are the appropriate land uses? Not, I mean, by law, we have to go through, all of these areas of the EIR with the.
But I think that and if the public hearing number 1 is where we're, going to discuss actual recommendation and land use and what we're
I don't
comfortable
think
with
we're-
if we can remediate to.
Well, I don't think that we're looking at making any recommendations in the first meeting.
No, not, no.
We're going to listen.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Let's set a schedule and then have staff come back after hearing some of the stuff with another proposal.
Well,
a mix and match.
Lori, what do you think of the schedule? I mean, of course, we all have to agree to go to the meetings, right?
I'm glad to see that it's broken down by all of the topics, because my fear was that we were going to come to the first meeting and, have had to have digested already all the information. Right. So, and I think that having a few weeks after the Planning Commission makes its recommendation is necessary for us to digest that, at least. So I agree we need to set a schedule. It is ambitious. It's definitely, more compact than the Planning Commission. But if we find that we need more time, we add more time. Like you said, it's more about, can we be available on these days? And, I'm making arrangements in my schedule so that I can be available for an increased workload this year, because I know it's going to take more time. And we all want to do the best job that we can. So as for the land use, I agree with Cliff that, it's something that I think belongs at the end. We'll have the overview of the application and the Planning Commission's recommendation in the beginning, but I think before we get to the land use, we need to go through all of the different environmental elements to, assess what and determine what the land use should be. So I'm comfortable with the schedule as it is.
So Madison.
I already know. I already
you're saying
know.
You cannot do 3 meetings a month.
No, I cannot. I already know that. I don't think it makes sense to accept a schedule, even though it's ambitious, and modify it later if you need more time. If you clearly have council members that are telling you that I'm going to need more, like I can't have 3 meetings a month, because that's not allowing me enough time 2 weeks later to have a regular city council meeting, and then, or a week later, and then a week later. Like, it just, to have this material plus normal council material is not going to have 3 meetings a month is not going to be feasible.
So let me just kind of hear what you're saying. I mean, you need more time to absorb the information
and to read
right?
it.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing, is to have enough time to read the material.
And so if by having the additional meeting in the month will give you another opportunity to discuss that same topic that was discussed at the previous meeting. We're not, I mean, again, this is just for the schedule. Not to say we're going to do this and we have to finish it on this day, and then we're going to go the next meeting is going to be this other item or item.
Mr. Mayor, can I just input, because it's important for you to understand that the schedule is important, whatever it is, because we have to coordinate consultants to come. So we have to know what day to bring them.
No, you're right about that. Well, yeah.
Can we go back to my suggestion that maybe do the 3 meetings one time this year, which is have the first meeting September 29th and then the second meeting December 5th. Spread it out. And that's what you're
December
asking.
5th?
Huh?
So
Did
so
you
you
say December 5th?
December 5th.
so
Yeah,
not
the
have
first
any
one
meetings.
September, and then go through October, November, assimilate, but get things together, but have the overview, and then go from there. Because you're talking about you can't do the 3 meetings a month, and I get it. I mean, I do, because you got a regular job, Terry. I do now, and I feel it. And I'm looking forward to this time off right now, because this is like it's gonna be a barn burner.
So Clark, I'm a little confused about what you're recommending here. All right. So
I'm
you're saying
recommending
the
that we do-
29th
that
and then
we
not
spread
have
it out.
any meetings until December 5th.
Yeah, that's have the second meeting, and I'm offering that out. I'm throwing that out.
I think the information will get stale. I think it's important.
Yeah, I
to
mean,
have
we
the
got to stay on top of this stuff. I mean,
I'm okay with one of these a month, as long as the max number of meetings per month is still 2. So maybe one meeting is focused on Baylands and the other meeting is focused on other council matters. But I just can't be having spacing. I need like a month in between each topic is what I'm saying. At least.
If we really intend
month and a half.
to look at this EIR completely and make the right recommendations, we are going to have weeks and weeks and weeks of reading.
okay, so if we do it that way, right? We could be dealing with one subject matter, and then say we don't finish it, because there's probably a good chance we wouldn't finish it, and then we'd wait a whole month before we'd address that same issue again. Now, Clay's talking about, how do you schedule these people to come and meet with us? I mean, is really a month between meetings addressing the same topic?
I think it's the start of a new topic. I think it's the start of a new topic. So in between,
I mean, we might finish a topic in a council meeting, but what if we don't, right? And then we wait a month before we come back to it. I mean, if we're going to stay fresh on this and do the work that we say that we want to do, again, if it's too much to do 3 meetings in a month, then okay, then we can't do it.
I'm more concerned about reading the material. So let's say like in the month of October, it's site remediation, right? And then that carries over. So we need to add another meeting for that. Fine. But I can't be then looking at traffic and noise. Like, let's say site remediation, we can do it in that one meeting. I can't then be looking at traffic and noise just 2 weeks later. Like, I need a month to then prepare for the whole other next topic.
Okay, another suggestion then. Eliminate the special meetings and have one meeting, a regular meeting, one meeting dedicated
Right.
to the project. Is that workable?
Yes. That's what I had suggested a little bit earlier, but I guess I didn't communicate it well enough.
That's what I'm hearing.
What about
It'll
Madison?
just
if-
carry the schedule out to March, basically.
Yeah.
Because you got 3
Double
meetings.
it up.
Yeah, it just carries it out to March.
Yeah.
And if we don't finish a topic within a month, Madison, would you be willing to then schedule an additional meeting within that month so that we can
Yes.
still stay on topic? And
Yes.
assuming we can get the consultant to come back
Yes.
within that month?
Yeah, I'm flexible having, I could have 4 meetings a month. I could be here every week. I'm not saying I want to do that, but I'm just saying I need enough time between topics to read.
For the next topic.
For the next
We're not gonna
topic.
I mean, this is a lot, I don't know how many of you cracked open those books.
It's in a huge box in my hat. Like, it's It's really a lot.
I mean, we've had those books for a long time.
Yeah.
We've had those books for a long time. We've been on the council a little longer.
I just got here.
She hasn't had an opportunity to crack any.
And I've read some of them, but like to the fine detail that I need to get at, and it's not the type of thing where you can spend like 3 hours straight. You have to focus and then walk away and then come back so you can be fresh.
Do we agree on that method?
So regular council meetings, one of those meetings.
Yeah, so your first meeting of the month, with the exception of September, so September 29th, you'll have a meeting, and then from that point forward, the second meeting of the month will be Baylands. The first meeting will be regular business. And that that schedule will carry through March.
Yes, and that we might schedule additional meetings, to finish up on something if the council
we'll
agrees.
see how
We'll see
each
how
one
that
of those
works.
goes, and
Just see how it goes, that's it, with that,
Okay,
and adjust accordingly.
okay. I think we're good.
all right, everyone's good with that? Okay, so we'll have a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Thank you.